A cleaner tried to apologise for being an inconvenience while suspended in mid-air by a hook which had impaled in his head. The judges found the meat company Affco guilty of breaching health and safety law and says it ignored its own safety rules in the lead up to the accident at its Rangiuru works in August 2014. Our employment reporter Max Towle has got the Tauranga District Court's decision. Max, hello. What exactly happened?
Hi, yes, I have been reading the decision, the very gruesome decision. One night in August 2015, Jason Matahiki was cleaning that plant's meat hooks, the moving meat hooks, which move on a chain. He was caught by surprise and one of the hooks pierced his head behind his left ear, emerging directly by his left eye. And because he was standing on an elevated platform at the time, he was actually suspended in midair and carried a short distance dangling by that hook. Oh. Luckily, his workmates rushed to him. They grabbed him by the torso and held him up, carrying his weight, and that emergency stop button was pressed. Fire crew and ambulance were naturally called, and after an ordeal which lasted about an hour and a half, he was finally removed from the machine, set down on the ground. The hook was pulled from his head. Thankfully, he suffered no long-term physical damage. However, as the decision says, he did suffer some very serious emotional decision, obviously very understandable, which has meant he's only returned to work very recently.
Okay, who took the case against Affco, Max?
Well, WorkSafe investigated, as they are wont to do, and eventually, after almost a year of investigating, they laid a charge against Affco, a charge which Judge Peter Rollo in the Tauranga District Court has now upheld. He says that Affco's own rules state that those hooks should not be moving during cleaning, and that the company didn't do enough to make sure its workers abided by those rules. In his words, there were some critical company failures at the plant. Affco's defence was that Mr. Matahiki shouldn't have been standing on that elevated platform. It says its rules state quite clearly that that shouldn't be the case. But after hearing lots of evidence from people who work at the plant, the court heard that it had become commonplace at the plant for people to get up on that platform, and that the responsibility should really fall on the company. I should add that the charge itself carries, under the Health and Safety and in Employment Act, it carries a maximum fine of $250,000.
Okay, you've spoken to the Meat Workers Union and Affco?
Yes, it emerged in the case quite extraordinarily that while he was dangling on that hook, Mr. Matahiki was apologising to his boss for being an inconvenience. I spoke to Darian Fenton, who was the Meat Worker Union's campaign director, and she says this point illustrates that there's a culture or an attitude at Affco plants whereby any accident is sort of treated as the worker's fault rather than the company's. And I think, to be fair, Affco would probably agree with that. They sent me a statement which says it feels like WorkSafe has made them a scapegoat, and it feels that WorkSafe is just looking to blame anyone. It says it has a good safety record, and this accident was the first on that particular chain in many years of operation. Tellingly, since that tragic night, the hooks themselves, during cleaning, they no longer move.